Hey everyone, welcome back to In Her Wallet, a weekly podcast helping women around the world take control of their finances for good and build better financial futures one episode at a time. My name is Sofiia. I'm your host, the creator of all things In Her Wallet, and an accredited investment representative here in Canada. Today marks episode 26 of season 2 or episode 41, all in since I started this podcast in October last year. I honestly can't believe we are moving at such a high speed, but all in all, and I think it won't be too long until we're celebrating episode 100, which I can't wait for that moment. But all in all, this makes me so excited because this podcast is a means to help women like you and I understand how to manage their money and be smart about it instead of having to figure it all out on their own, which I think is what society expects us to do because they don't teach us this in schools and the banks don't teach us that. So if you love our show, if you support and share our mission, the best and free way to support us is to leave us a 5-star review or take a screenshot of this episode and share it on your stories or on your Twitter or on your threads, whatever your favorite platform is, and share it with your friends because that helps us grow and reach new audiences. And don't forget that we have an active YouTube channel as well where you can watch every episode in video version and see my face. Well, with that being said, today we are chatting about thin wallets, expensive taste, and lifestyle inflation. Out of all three, I just listed expensive taste. Okay, let's break the ice because that definitely sounds like something up my alley. I love nice things, and I'm a believer that you should surround yourself in life with things and experiences that make you happy. Like if that's a latte, a daily latte you get from your favorite coffee shop, do it. If that's an Azuline coffee table book you want to get for your home and that's what's going to make you feel more happy in your home, go ahead and do it. But as long as these things are not to the detriment of your financial health, because that's when the lifestyle inflation can start creeping in. If you haven't heard that phrase before, what lifestyle inflation is when you continue to increase your spending as your income rises. Let's say you just got a salary raise and your first natural instinct is to go and upgrade your closet or potentially take out a mortgage for a new home or maybe take a loan for a nicer car and upgrade your car, or start purchasing nicer wine than the one you were able to afford before. This is all normal. I understand we all work hard in order to be able to have a nice lifestyle, but it's very common for a lot of people to get into the trap of lifestyle inflation at a point where, unfortunately, when an emergency comes, they are vulnerable and experience financial stress. And also very often, people who go on path of such behavior end up with zero to their name. I don't know, give you a scenario, you're 50 years old, that's the lifestyle you've been living your whole life. You understand that you haven't really saved for your retirement. You have 10 years until you want to retire, and then you're left scrambling to understand what do you need to do in order to maintain that lifestyle going forward. So I hope I was able to describe what lifestyle inflation is in simple terms. And this is basically what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the science of lifestyle inflation, the direct ways that it affects your financial well being, the strategies you can use to avoid lifestyle inflation, including the ones I use personally myself without having to say no to the things that I love, and also ways to build a sustainable lifestyle, including if you have an expensive taste. Shall we? So, what is it that makes us to continue increase our spending as our income grows? Obviously, the first thing that comes to my mind is, as I mentioned, our natural instinct to upgrade our lifestyle and live better basically than where we come from. For me personally, I grew up in a small town while my sister and I used to live in the same home, we always had shared one bedroom, and more so, we always slept in the same bed. There was nothing wrong with that, and I absolutely love the fact that my sister and I spent a lot of time together. But also now that I've moved to Canada, I see that it's very common here for people, for families to live in houses and for children to have their own bedrooms and that level of privacy. I think to myself that when I am at that stage in life, I would definitely want to upgrade my lifestyle and be able to live in a home where everyone has, like, my children have their own bedroom, or where there is more space for a family. So for you, that's just my example. For you, obviously, you can relate probably to mine, or can relate in a different way, potentially upgrading a car, as I mentioned, or you're used to just eating at home, but now your income finally rises and you start going out and potentially going out to nicer restaurants than before, getting finally designer clothes and shoes and bags. All of that is okay. But again, lifestyle inflation can creep in very easily and unnoticeably. So I think keeping that psychological factor in check is very important. I think that unless you have that understanding of where do I need to be at in terms of different situations in life, such as housing, car, again, like your branded clothes, if you want that, understanding what your end goal is and like where do you need to be, what do you need to achieve in order to stop in that particular field of life. I think that's very important. And unless you understand that for yourself, then it'll probably be easy to fall into the trap of lifestyle inflation, because you will constantly be upgrading your lifestyle and getting used to that new baseline. And once you get there, you'll probably get tired of it quickly, or like wait for next promotion and feel like, okay, now next I'm moving on to the next one, without actually setting money aside for long-term financial goals and for your future you. I think social comparison is the other factor that can potentially affect and influence us to fall into the trap of lifestyle inflation. And the reason for that is because we live in the day and age when we can easily follow others people's lives, the places they go for vacation, how often they do that, the cars they drive, the things they buy for themselves, the entertainment that they're able to have, and feel like that's where we need to be, which of course unintentionally increases our spending. Like for me yesterday, I was on Instagram. Let me tell you this is crazy. I was on Instagram and I came across this woman, absolutely gorgeous, has a beautiful family, three boys, a husband. They live a beautiful life, have a gorgeous home, travel a lot, fly private. She has fantastic jewelry. I was like looking through her profile, all of her story highlights, because it looked like a movie. And then obviously my natural thought is, okay, I want to get there one day. And yes, there is nothing wrong with that. But then a reality check kicked in. And I was like, okay, at this rate of spending that they have, you probably need to have a net worth of, I don't know, Kylie Jenner or Kim Kardashian. And in order for me to get there, I first need to prioritize my financial goals, the future of me, and then I'll be able to get there. But I feel like in life, naturally, we mix the order of these things, and instead of prioritizing our financial futures and our long-term financial goals, we decide to run after these luxuries because that's what others are doing. So why do I need to be setting aside money for God knows me in 20, 30, 40 years if I want to spend now and I want to live a nice life now? Unfortunately, that's not very sustainable. And again, as I mentioned previously, if an emergency knocks on your door, yes, maybe first or second or third time, you'll be fine. But again, that's not sustainable. And you don't want to find yourself in a situation where, again, you're 50 years old or 45 years old and you don't really have anything saved for retirement. So social comparison is a big one. I think those two are, for me personally, major psychological factors that can contribute to lifestyle inflation. Others might be fear of missing out, emotional spending. We actually have an episode from season 1 about emotional spending. So if you're interested, make sure to check it out. A big one I'm not going to get into, but has a big part, I think, in lifestyle inflation is issues with self worth and identity. A lot of people buy things they can't really afford, and by saying they can't afford, I mean that they can't buy, 5 of these things if they wanted. They can only afford one, or potentially even have to take out a loan for that. Is they do that, for example, cars is an easy example. They do that as a way of justifying their self-worth and showing the community and society that, they're successful and they've achieved something in life. So that should never be the case. But moving on, I really want to highlight a tangible example of how consistent increase in spending as your income rises is detrimental to your financial well-being and to your ability to build wealth. So obviously, the biggest thing that lifestyle inflation can have an effect on is your savings and investments, which later in life spills into delayed financial goals, retirement shortfalls, increased debt, and so on. If you are a person whose spending increases in line with their income, you might be experiencing difficulties with growing your emergency fund, because that's one of the things you have to do if you continue to, increase those expenses that it costs to be you on a monthly basis. Another thing is just not be able to take advantage of investment opportunities just because your savings rate is not fast enough. Now, you might be wondering, why does this lack of savings and investments hinder someone's ability to build wealth if wealth is the possession of those luxurious things and being able to go on vacations? I mean, isn't that kind of why we all work so hard? I kind of see your point, but if again an emergency knocks on your door and you have nothing to protect you, you don't have money set aside to protect you in this emergency, your bags and shoes and vacations will not be of help. You will be underwater and will be experiencing a lot of financial stress, which all in, I mean, who wants to be in that position, right? I think as society, we believe that wealthy people are the people who have a lot of stuff and who possess luxurious things and are able to provide themselves these fancy experiences. And I mean, yes, I was guilty of that too when I was looking at that woman's Instagram profile. But it's very good to remind yourself that wealth is not really about owning the things, but wealth is looking under the hood and realizing that you have that financial foundation to support yourself throughout life for many days and years to come, in case anything changes in your life. Now, I'm not trying to say that you shouldn't be treating yourself to nice things. I mean, I started this whole episode with saying I have an expensive taste and I love nice things. But what makes a difference is prioritizing your financial goals and financial planning for many years ahead, because only in that scenario will you not be left vulnerable in case a downtime comes. So when I was scrolling through that woman's Instagram profile, I mean, thank God that reality check kicked in and I reminded myself what my priorities should be. But that inclination to, you know, buy luxurious things or go after experiences that you might be able to afford, but that money would serve you better if they went into your investment account. These are kind of signs of lifestyle inflation, and it's very important to again keep them in check and look at yourself in the mirror, understand that okay, well, I am going through this. What can I do to change that? Other signs of lifestyle inflation could be you potentially going out for dinners or lunches too often, or ordering takeout often instead of spending. Yes, again, you might be able to afford that, but if you sit down and actually calculate what percentage of your monthly income that or your monthly budget that comes to, that probably would be too much. And again, portion of that money could be invested into the future you and into your financial goals down the road. What else? I feel like overspending on unnecessary things is another one. A lot of people, I think, these days have subscriptions to many different platforms. I mean, entertainment is the big one. We have Netflix, Apple TV, Disney Plus, Crave, Hulu, you name it. What I personally like to do, and I mean, you don't get enough value out of these subscriptions if you don't use them enough. Yes, cancel them out, because that will give you an opportunity to guide that money towards other things that might serve you better. I might not be naming all of the potential signs of lifestyle inflation, but I hope I gave you a good idea of what that looks like, and the fact that it's very important to just keep these things in check, because as long as you stay aware of it, that's kind of the majority of work is already done in that case. Now, let's go over a few strategies to avoid this kind of behavior. And in particular, I want to walk you through the things I personally do that don't make me say no to the things that I love and still allow me to indulge in things that I consider a little bit luxurious for myself. For me personally, I love, and I think it's very important for every person to just make sure you set financial goals for yourself. As long as you reassess that you are on path to these financial goals, everything else will fall into place. These financial goals don't have to be anything fancy. Actually, the simpler you keep them, the better, because it'll be way easier for you to keep track then if you're on path to achieve it or not. The three financial goals I personally set for myself go as follows. I do not spend more than I earn, and in my monthly expenses, I also include the future me bucket, which is the amount of money I transfer to my savings and to my investments accounts, which is also automated. So I'm making the whole process very seamless and easy for myself. The more things you can automate, the better. I know in the previous episode I mentioned that I do not like to automate my credit card payments, but that's a different conversation. You know, savings and investments is always the positive. So if you can automate that, that's good. So goal number one, again, do not spend more than you earn, and make sure to account for future you and pay yourself first. The second goal I set for myself always is to have an emergency fund that I always keep at a minimum of 5 month expenses balance. What does it cost to be Sofiia times 5 months? That's the balance I like to see in my savings account. And third goal is making sure that you do not have debt. No one likes that. No, we want to say bye to it, but making sure that you prioritize paying off debt if you have anything, and also paying off any high interest debt right away, such as credit card outstanding balances. So for me, my number one financial goal every month is to make sure that I am able to pay in full my credit card balance. And of course, that is never an issue, because that spurs from goal number one, where I do not spend more than I earn. Another strategy that I've really enjoyed over the years to make sure that I do not fall for lifestyle inflation trap is just being very mindful of the things I buy and spend money on. Usually before I commit to purchasing a product or subscribing to a service, I always ask myself, what is the return on this purchase and how long will the happiness from it last? You will not you will not believe how much money it actually helped me save, because this question alone helps you avoid impulsive shopping so well. Like, I already have 5 pairs of heels. Yes, a new pair will make me very happy, but do I really need it? Like, these are the things I think about when I'm in the store. Of course, occasionally treating yourself to nice items is always good. I mean, you have to find balance. That's the key, because unless there is balance, it's not sustainable to live that kind of lifestyle. So I do not preach that, but making sure that you're very mindful of the things you spend the money on is very important. I did start this conversation with an example of how I came across this woman on Instagram, and I absolutely loved the life that she lives, and that, right away I was like, oh my God, I need to buy this dress. I love it. I want to get there and do this and go here for vacation. That was the trigger for me to increase my spending and be emotional when it comes to my spending. So keeping track of the things that trigger you is the best idea, I think. Minimizing exposure to social media, if that's what you do, minimizing watching TikTok at night, if that's when your impulsive shopping from weird websites happens. Advertising is everywhere these days, so being very cautious of the things that you're subscribed to, for example, for email newsletters and SMS notifications. All of these things can be very helpful when it comes to you being mindful with your spending. And finally, reassessing and reviewing regularly how you're doing with your money and with your expensive taste and the size of your wallet. There is nothing more precious and wealthy in life than knowing that you have a thick financial foundation that allows you to live life where you have options to choose from. No bag, no vacation, no car, and no house will provide you with that feeling, because all of those things are material. And if you've been there, you'll know that happiness doesn't last from it that long, versus knowing that you're good with money and that you have that financial foundation is actually a feeling that offers you peace of mind. And there is nothing more valuable than that. Well, I feel like I shared quite a bit today. To recap, I want to emphasize that finding a balance between enjoying your life and building long term financial security is crucial for overall well being and peace of mind. Again, I believe that it's essential to enjoy the present moment and treat yourself to experiences and items that bring you joy and fulfillment. However, it's important to ensure that these indulgences are within reasonable amounts and limits and are aligned with your financial capabilities. In Her Wallet Girl, I want you to give yourself credit for showing up for yourself and your future, because every time you do that, you increase what's financially possible for you. If you have an expensive taste, I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you like to spend your money on, and let me know if you will be changing anything in your spending habits after listening to this episode. I can't wait for next week, because we have a very special conversation. I don't want to spill the tea right now and tell you what it is, but make sure to tune in. And again, I thank you all for listening to this episode. I love to hear back from you and to see your reviews. If you can do that, please take the time and do it today. With that said, I'll see you next week.